Three women are standing in a forest. One of them will win. Two of them will lose. And the man holding the golden apple, the man who has to choose, is about to make the single most catastrophic decision in the history of Western civilization. His name is Paris. He is a prince of Troy. And he has no idea what he is actually being asked to choose between. Neither does the painter who immortalized this moment. Or maybe he did. Peter Paul Rubens was 53 years old when he married Hélène Fourment. She was 16. In 1638, 2 years before his death, Rubens painted The Judgment of Paris for the last time. He had painted the subject before, in 1606, when he was young and establishing his reputation. That version was competent, classical, respectful of the mythological tradition. The 1638 version is something else entirely. In the 1638 version, the goddess of love, Aphrodite, the one Paris chooses, the one who wins, has the face of Hélène Fourment, Rubens's wife, the woman he loved, the woman whose face appears in more of his paintings than any other figure in his entire career. And Paris, the man making the choice, the man holding the golden apple, the man whose decision will destroy the world, has features that several art historians have identified as Rubens himself. The most famous myth about a catastrophic choice, painted by a man who was himself in the middle of the most consequential choice of his life. This was not an accident, but before we get to Rubens, we have to go back to the beginning. Before Troy, before the war, before everything, to a wedding. The goddess Eris, the goddess of discord, was not invited to the wedding of Peleus and Thetis. Every god and goddess in the Greek pantheon was there except her. And Eris, in her fury at being excluded, threw a golden apple into the middle of the celebrations. On the apple were 3 words, "For the fairest." 3 goddesses immediately claimed it. Hera, queen of the gods, wife of Zeus, ruler of Olympus and everything beneath it. Athena, goddess of wisdom and war, born from the mind of Zeus himself, invincible in battle and strategy. Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty, the most physically perfect being in existence. Zeus, with remarkable diplomatic wisdom, refused to judge between them. He delegated the choice to a mortal. He chose Paris. Paris was a prince of Troy, the son of King Priam, but he had not grown up in the palace. At his birth, a prophecy had declared that he would be the ruin of Troy. His parents, in desperation, had sent him away to be raised as a shepherd on Mount Ida. He was young. He was handsome. He was entirely unprepared for what was about to happen to him. 3 of the most powerful beings in the universe descended from Olympus to stand before a shepherd on a hillside and ask him to decide which of them was the fairest. And then, because the Greeks understood human nature perfectly, each goddess offered him a bribe. Hera offered him power, dominion over kingdoms, the greatest earthly empire ever seen. He would rule the world. Athena offered him wisdom and military invincibility. He would never lose a battle. He would be the greatest warrior who had ever lived. No enemy could defeat him. Aphrodite offered him the most beautiful woman in the world. Her name was Helen. She was already married to the king of Sparta. Paris chose Aphrodite. Here is where the myth becomes something more than mythology. Every version of the story, every painting, every poem, every retelling across 3,000 years presents Paris's choice the same way, as a failure of judgment. The foolish young man who chose beauty over power, love over wisdom, desire over strategy. The implication is always the same. He should have chosen differently. He chose wrong. But look at what he was actually being asked. Hera offered him the world, dominion over kingdoms, armies, empires, the ability to rule and command and control. Athena offered him the capacity to destroy, military invincibility, the power to win every war, and Aphrodite offered him love. Paris chose the only option that had nothing to do with power over other people. He chose something for himself, something personal, something that had no strategic value whatsoever and no use as a weapon. He chose love. And yes, it destroyed the world. The Trojan War lasted 10 years. Thousands died. Troy burned. The Greek heroes who won spent years trying to find their way home, most of them never making it. All of it because one man, given the choice between power and love, chose love. The question the myth has been asking for 3,000 years is not whether Paris made the wrong choice. The question is whether he made the only honest one. Rubens understood this question better than most. He had been one of the most successful painters in Europe for decades. He had wealth, reputation, diplomatic connections to the courts of Spain and England and France. He had everything that could be described as power. Then, at 53, he married a 16-year-old girl named Hélène Fourment. The world had opinions about this. Rubens did not care. In his letters, he described Hélène with a directness that made his contemporaries uncomfortable. Her vivacity, her beauty, her laugh. He painted her constantly. She appears as the Madonna, as mythological figures as herself. She is the most painted woman in his entire career. When he was dying, he asked to be buried with his ring. The ring she had given him. He knew exactly what he had chosen, and he knew exactly what Paris had chosen. In the 1638 painting, the three goddesses stand in the dappled light of a forest on Mount Ida. Mercury, the messenger god, has escorted them. Paris sits to one side, the golden apple in his hand. Rubens paints the three goddesses with extraordinary skill. Their bodies are magnificent, their poses classical, their arrangement perfectly composed in the tradition of the Flemish master working at the height of his powers. But the faces tell the real story. Hera and Athena are beautiful in a generic way, idealized. The faces of mythological figures. Aphrodite's face is specific, real, recognizable. It is Hélène Fourment. The woman Paris is about to choose, the woman who represents the most dangerous, most destructive, most personally devastating option of the three, has the face of the woman Rubens loved more than his reputation, more than the opinion of his contemporaries, more than the practical advice of everyone who told him the marriage was inappropriate. And Paris, sitting with the apple about to make his choice, looks, in the specific set of his jaw and the curve of his brow, like the painter himself. Rubens did not paint a myth. He painted a memory, or perhaps a justification. The golden apple falls to Aphrodite. Troy burns. Helen goes home to Menelaus eventually, after 10 years and 10,000 deaths. Paris dies in the war he started. And Rubens, 2 years after painting this, dies too. He leaves Hélène everything. She is 26 years old and one of the wealthiest women in Antwerp. She eventually remarries, has more children, lives a long life. She is 50 years old when she finally destroys all the paintings Rubens made of her in the nude. Too many, she feels, for her children to inherit. Some survived, including the one where she is Aphrodite, including the one where Rubens, holding the golden apple, chose her. The myth of the judgment of Paris has been used for 3,000 years to teach a lesson about bad decisions. Don't choose beauty over wisdom. Don't let desire override strategy. Don't be Paris. But look at the painting again. Look at the face of the man holding the apple. Look at the face of the woman he is about to give it to. And ask yourself whether the lesson is really about a bad decision or about a decision so human, so honest, so stripped of strategy and ambition and self-interest that the only word for it is love. The world burned. But he chose something true. And Rubens, at 53, at the end of his life, with everything he had ever built around him, picked up a brush and painted himself making the same choice. not as a warning, as a confession. If this changed the way you think about a myth you thought you already understood, share it with someone who thinks they know how the story ends. And if you want to go deeper into the artists, the choices, and the masterpieces that contain the truths we were never supposed to find, subscribe to Hidden Canvas. The apple was never the point.